Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another Godzilla x Kong, the new Empire release. These figures are now kind of dwindling at this point as I've run through most of the lineup that I intended on acquiring and adding to my collection. There are still a few newer Godzilla x Kong figures that I have here that I'm going to have up on the channel, but we're getting close to the end, I would think. But you can see this time we have the Godzilla vs. Shimo Walmart exclusive 4-piece diorama set, and this is a pretty interesting one, and it's one that I've actually been looking for quite a few weeks, but it was really hard to find because the figures weren't really releasing at my local Walmart at all, and online, this one is on there on Walmart's website, but it's also being sold by third-party sellers, which are obviously upcharging, you know, doing pretty much what they usually do, and that's trying to profit off of the desire for the new toy line and the fact that they're kind of hard to get a hold of, but now they're becoming very common here. My Walmart was loaded with this set. So you can see again we've got a different paint variant for Godzilla as well as a different paint variant for Shimo right there. And then if you turn it to the side, you can see kind of a sneak peek of the set right there. And then over here, again, pretty much the same thing we saw on the Kong and Scar King box. And then here on the back, you can see a nice image of the set again, as well as some information on it. And down here telling you everything that is included in the set. So let's pop this open and check it out. So we've got our cardboard, you know, diorama pieces, I guess you could call them. We've also got Godzilla over here, as well as Shimo, of course, who I need to reposition the legs here of so that it can stand. I wouldn't even say stand better, just stand at all. And then our atomic breaths of each participant here. Of course, the atomic breath of Godzilla and the frostbite blast, apparently, of Shimo. But you can see both figures actually look pretty cool. I do love the color variation on these two. Again, they are the same figures that are in the main line, but different paint variants of them. And, you know, I really do quite like this version of Shimo better than the mainline version. I just really like the blues on it. And I think the blues on the Godzilla also look really cool, and definitely something that I am a fan of. I have heard, you know, some different things about Shimo, about how the figure isn't really that great due to tail length and stuff. Now, I personally haven't seen the full reveal of Shimo. In fact, the only thing that I've seen of Shimo outside of the toy line so far is the image that's on the front of the box, and it's basically just showing the head. So it's a little hard to tell what all is going on with the actual figure compared to the kaiju from the film and what differentiates it. But I'm just basing it off of only having very limited knowledge of the figure here. I think it looks pretty cool. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at both of these right now. Now, it is important to keep in mind that these figures are the same sculpt and everything as the mainline releases, and we've already reviewed those. So we only need to go over anything that differentiates this from the original release. Same with the Godzilla. You can see the eyes are blue, just like we saw in the first one. I almost dropped it. We again have an articulated jaw. The inside of the mouth looks pretty much the same. Again, that same pink tongue. We've got the teeth painted with a light yellow. They're a little better painted on this one than the mainline version that I purchased. So nothing really different, nothing new going on there. As you lead up into the head, again, we do have those crystals here on the top, those crystal-like spines for our Shimo. And I did hear in the comment section, I did read somebody mention how these ones are unpainted. And again, I don't know for sure what color they should be since I haven't really seen the kaiju itself yet from the film. So I don't really know exactly. I can't comment on, you know, the perfect screen accuracy of the figure. You can see, though, that we do have these like bluish tones. Kind of looks like blue to me here. Yeah, more like blue than purple. And then you have like this lighter blue as you lead out. Now, the lighter blue is definitely something that's a little bit different on this one compared to the first release. So that is one new area of paint application. Same deal back here. When you move into these spines on the back, you can see mixtures of the lighter blues as well as the purplish tones and stuff as you move through. And that's pretty cool. Again, definitely giving the figure a little bit more interesting, I would say, of an appearance. But one thing that is interesting, you can see we still have that kind of translucent look, but the ones that are painted obviously don't feature that translucent look anymore, as they've painted over that, and you can no longer see through those crystals, which is a little bit of a bummer, but it's not a huge deal. As you move down here into the side, we basically continue to have that white coloration for the figure, but you do see some slight variations of blues added, and even like this almost looks like a light green running down this front leg here, and then again this blue. You can even see slight areas of it showing up within the body. And the same thing here on the underside, you see those variations of kind of like greens and blues here on the underside of the figure as well, which is really cool actually. Same deal running all the way out here onto the tail. You see that running along the underside of the figure the entire way out. Again, we have the purple following along the back of the tail here as we lead out to that very similar, again, tail sculpt to Godzilla. And then as you look over here at the opposing side, pretty much the same thing going on over here, again with just some slight variations of those blues and greens moving through the body, just really nice and lightly airbrushed in some areas, a little bit, more impressive airbrushing in certain other areas. But it does look really cool. Again, it's not different as far as the articulation. Everything else is the same, just a little bit of extra paint application on this one, which I think makes the figure a bit more interesting than the first release. And then Godzilla, again, the 6-inch Godzilla figure here has returned, and somehow the eyes are absolutely even worse on this one than the other one. Like, what is going on here? Look at how huge Godzilla's eyes are and how tiny his pupil is. The other side looks kind of a little bit better, but not by much. Man, I don't know what's going on when it comes to this Playmates line, and the eyes of Godzilla have been just an absolute disaster the entire time. I just don't understand. It's humorous to look at, actually. It really is quite funny to see Godzilla with eyes that are absolutely so gigantic. He looks like he's completely shocked by something. I guess maybe he's shocked by the arrival of Shimo. I don't know. But I do like the color variation of this one. Once you move past those horrible eyes and you move down here, I do like these very cool bluish tones. It almost feels like wherever they are fighting, there's like a glow in that area, maybe from all the crystals or something, and it's kind of reflecting off of Godzilla here. You can kind of see the glow appearing on Godzilla. That's sort of the way it feels. Maybe the glow's coming off of Shimo. Again, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet. But you have some really nice light blues here on the underside. You also have some darker blues that kind of run along the side of the neck here, down into the arms. You also have those light blues moving down into the arms as well. They have done a pretty good job of applying this coloration, this paintwork, and you can see that continues to run down the entire course of the underside of Godzilla. Again, we have those darker blues, and then the lighter blues, and then you do see a little more of the darker blue here, but unfortunately, the coloration ends as we lead out into the tail. On Shimo, it did run the entire length of the tail, so it is kind of sad to see it ending and not running through the entire tail. Outside of that, the figure primarily looks the same as the other 6-inch version. We have the nails painted, which look okay. You can see the jaw does articulate. In my very first review of the 6-inch Godzilla, the jaw was so stuck, it was so stiff, it did not move. And I didn't think it had an articulated jaw, but it actually does, and you can see that here. But you can also see again that the blue, actually that's really weird. So you can see that the light blue runs all the way up here onto the lower jaw on this side, not so much on this side. So a little inconsistent as far as that paintwork goes. But you can see the teeth are painted with kind of like an off-white variation of color, very sloppy, very thick, like we've seen through most of the Godzillas, and you can kind of see the tongue in there as well, which is painted. So nothing really new as far as that goes. You can see we again have the pinkish tone here, and then as we lead down we have those translucent spines, which look super cool. But then as we lead into the tail, again, the coloration did not match up well at all, and I've said this a few times. They just didn't pick a color that matches well with this, and I can understand, considering it is a translucent look, it's going to be something that's hard to do, but it feels like they didn't even really try. But as you lead out, you can see we basically just have that pinkish tone here running along the top of Godzilla. Even here, I think it's maybe a little too thick, like it's just really on there, like caked on there. And then again, you have the painted nails for the feet, but nothing else new outside of that for the figure. I will say that that kind of glow effect on the underside of Godzilla does look super, super cool, making this my favorite when it comes to the 6-inch Godzillas, when it comes to the paint variants, but it is by no means an excellent figure. It absolutely still has its issues, just like the other one did. And then we again have the Atomic Breath as well as the Frostbite Blast here included. They are the same, it looks like, as the last two figures featured. So nothing really new going on as far as those either. But it is a really cool set, I will say that. Two very cool paint variants. Now, of course, to apply our Atomic Breath, you're going to, wow, this Godzilla is a problem when it comes to his mouth, and the jaw does not stay open well. But you need to take the Atomic Breath and this kind of like little peg thing here, and slide it up into the inside of his mouth if we can get it up in there. There we go. And we now have Godzilla with his Atomic Breath in, and I'm not a big fan of the way this looks. Had I realized this the very first review, I would have said the same thing then. I think it's weird how it kind of leaks out of his mouth here on the side. I get kind of what they were going for, but it more or so looks like he's vomiting jelly, and the jelly is kind of running here off of the side of his mouth. That's just sort of the way it looks. And then, of course, Shimo would be the same thing. You can see there's a little peg here on the his version of the Atomic Breath, and then you just slide it up into the inside of the mouth there, and then it stays in there, and you can display him like that, looking very cool. I will say it is very neat to see the two like this, and it just, when you look at the two, they just look so similar. I don't know if anybody has heard anything yet, but I really do feel like Godzilla and Shimo might be somehow related. Maybe distantly, I don't know, but they have too many similarities to deny, and it almost seems like Shimo is a super, super evolved version of a Godzilla, kind of. I don't know. Maybe that's just me looking too far into it, but they do look really cool. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take these, diorama pieces. I'm going to put them together really quick, and then we'll check those out. Okay, so we've got these built, and here is one half of what they call the bone cage diorama, which you can see does look pretty cool. It's obviously some form of leftover bones here, but I mean, if you look at this size-wise in comparison to Godzilla and Shimo, I don't know if this is actually how they size up to the bone cage in the film, but what kaiju could have been this huge that it would give it, like, it looks like a rib cage to me, kind of, and like, man, that would have been an absolutely gigantic kaiju to give us ribs that large. As you can see, once you slide the two pieces together, it does create this kind of area where you can display at least one of the figures in. I don't think you'd get both in there, but it's pretty cool. It's basically the same thing on both sides. And then you also, of course, have some more of these crystals like we had with the Kong and Scar King set, and those as well are pretty neat because they are actually a little different. Like when you look at the shape of the crystals, the way that these look here in the front, they're a little bit different from each other. So again, the actual diorama set pieces itself, let me just put these back here. They're not really the most amazing thing in the world because they are basically just little cardboard pieces, but they are still pretty cool and definitely, again, help to create a very neat backdrop for your figures if you are going to display them and stuff. I would say that these are a great way to display both of these figures. Now, we don't really need to do sizes, comparisons, any of that stuff because we've already reviewed both of these figures before. The only real comparison that I wanted to do, obviously, was to have both of the figures standing next to each other so we can kind of get an idea of the size of Godzilla next to Shimo here. And obviously, Shimo looks like he is a bit larger than Godzilla. But again, we'll have to wait and see when we actually see the film itself exactly how they size up next to each other. But as of this, playset here, it gives us a pretty good idea of the fact that Shimo is larger than Godzilla. But you know, that just could be in the playset. Who really knows? Regardless, again, like I said, we don't really need to do sizes, comparisons, any of that stuff. We don't need to check out the articulation or any of that. We've already done all of that in the previous reviews because these are just strictly repaints. But I will say this set is pretty cool. It definitely is a fun one to collect. If you are collecting the line, I highly recommend checking Walmart out and grabbing both this and the Kong and Scar King set, because I would say that they are really neat additions as far as repaints go, because they're very cool looking, and I would almost say they're my favorite versions of these figures that are out currently. Like, I actually think I like them better than the regular mainline releases. Shimo's paint here is just more interesting than the first round, the first version. Like, I just really like the blues and the slight greens and stuff. The very first one didn't really have much in the way of coloration to it, so the addition of these extra tones just in general make the figure stand out more, and again, it just makes it way more interesting to me personally. It is still a pretty cool figure, again sporting fun articulation and fairly decent detail. It's not incredible, but fairly decent overall. And again, Godzilla looks okay, but I would say maybe even a little less than okay. The Godzilla is, like, for some reason, even though you would think one of the bigger stars of the movie, seems to be getting the shaft on these toys, because he is consistently the worst figures I think that they have out. Like, there's just always something wrong with the Godzillas that make them look awkward. Like, the eyes are just always too huge, the sloppiness to the paintwork on the inside of the mouth, the transition between the translucent spines down to the coloration of the spines on the tail just doesn't look good, doesn't look smooth, the coloration doesn't match. Like, there's always some iffy things about the Godzilla figures. Same case with this one, no different than the others, except it does have some pretty cool coloration on the underside, sort of giving it like that glow effect, and I really do like that, at least. But we also, again, have the diorama pieces in the back, which I feel like are definitely cooler this time around than they were for the Kong and Scar King set, but still nothing amazing, but definitely neat when it comes to posing your figures and displaying them. So like I said, it's not an absolutely incredible set, but it sure is a fun one. So if you are interested, head to your local Walmart, grab it. Again, when you find it on the shelf, I will include a link to the actual listing on Walmart's website. It does seem to be popping in and out of stock, but maybe you could check that website and then check your local stores on there to see which one might actually have it in stock. That's how I found mine, was just checking on the website. So make sure you check that link, go grab this very cool set, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.